Hi guys, it's Chels back in my little vent corner, and I want to talk about a couple of things. But I think first I want to talk about how when I was growing up, I felt unheard and unseen and unloved. And I know a lot of kids go through that, but I want to talk about my experience because it's my channel. Um, and I don't know, I just wanted to make anyone out there who feels this way feel less alone and heard and seen like I didn't. So just, if you want to leave a comment down, talk about your experience, you can. Um, I'll be glad to hear it. But when I was younger, I remember I wanted to so bad wake up and just see a huge breakfast made for my mom. And I wanted to be able to spend the whole day with my mom and sister just out there experiencing the world. And back then, technology really wasn't that big, but it still was becoming something big. And by that time, people were already getting addicted to just, like always, playing video games or being on their computers all the time. But I liked reading books and I liked being at the park. I liked being of the world. And I couldn't do a lot of things that often because my mom was working all the time. And I understood back then, not to the extent as I do now, but I understood back then that my mom had to work. What I didn't want to understand, even though I did, was why she had to work and other mothers didn't. Because growing up, I would ask other kids, and most of them would say, like, oh no, my mom doesn't work. And it was strange to have a mom that worked. Literally, I was probably one in 15 students that had a mom, or 20 probably, that had a mom that worked. And it was upsetting because they would talk about the things they would do. And I learned at an early age, not as much as I understand it now, but I learned that it had to do with having a father. And you know ever since I was young, ever since I can remember, nothing ever revolved around me. That's how I knew I wasn't wanted. And I always felt like, you know how sometimes you'll be eating, right, something, and like, for example, let's say that you put let's say you put like onion and garlic in it, and every other garlic and onion like was able to be mixed into it, right? So you don't see it, there's no clump of it, there's no, like, it's like it didn't even exist, right? But every once in a while, you'll be eating your food and you'll get a giant piece of like garlic or onion, and you'll be like, what is this? It's like that. I felt that way. Like I was the extra piece that didn't actually belong there. And so I grew up feeling that way. And I convinced myself that I didn't belong. And so I tried to find a way to make myself fit, right? Maybe I couldn't fit in a family, but to fit in the world. And I always felt like an outcast for the world because I always felt different. I didn't quite understand why I was different, and I didn't like being different, but I felt different. I was very isolated from a young age, not because I wanted to, but I was. And I learned that when I would talk, people didn't want to listen unless it mattered to them. And I discovered things I shouldn't have discovered when I was a kid. And it led me down being depressed at a very early age. I saw my self worth in things that I shouldn't have. And let's just say that that's the things that created the person I am today, which I'm grateful for. But at the same time, I wish I wouldn't have had to have that experience. But, sometimes I'd wake up and want to see my mom, have this huge breakfast for me, and I wanted to spend the whole day with her. Or I wanted, to have a surprise birthday party, which I never got one. I wanted to have, an amazing day with my brothers and my sister. I wanted to have, a good father daughter relationship. I wanted to be liked by my sister. Um, I wanted to go to the beach. I wanted to have parties, like just random parties. Um, I wanted to go to Disneyland. I wanted a family. And I knew that because of how unreliable I had as a father, which I didn't really put it that way at the time, but I'm putting it that way now. Because of the unreliable father that I had, I couldn't have that. And my mom had to work. It wasn't a choice. If she would have had an actual good partner and father to her children, then, she would have been able to do a lot of amazing things. And look, my mom is nowhere near perfect. She never has been. She's grown as a person over the years, but it's taken a lot of effort. And still to this day, she struggles with change. She doesn't like change. And it comes with how she grew up. And I want to say something. I've learned since I was young to be an understanding person of situations, of why things happened, of why people react the way they do, of da 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 dot dot dot, right? But here's the big but. I want you to remind yourself something that I had to remind myself probably starting about 2 years ago. You can understand people and the situations, but you have to put yourself first. So, whatever you're feeling right now has to come first before you start thinking about how someone else felt and why they reacted the way they did. So, in that example, I have to put myself first in feeling like I am very upset and disappointed that I never had the father that I wanted before I even think about, how he grew up and how his parents treated him and why he acts the way he acts. Because in reality, right, we all have our own choices, regardless of our past. And not personally, I am tired of people excusing their behavior, their actions, right? Just because, oh, when I was young, da 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 da. Or I was never taught, da 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 da. Because one thing I learned is that though I never received love and attention and care and all these things that I needed and deserved when I was a child, I know I'll do it, and I've done it for other people. So it's not about how you grow up, it's about who you choose to be and how you choose to be. So let's get that straight. And I wanted to remind you that because I wish I would have had that. I wish I would have had somebody that told me that. But I do want to talk about, the feelings of inadequacy that I felt. I felt that I needed things that I didn't receive. I was always alone. People would always put me, like when I would be talking, people would always put me in the sideline. Like it would be like I was talking to a wall. And that felt horrible to me because why would you do that to someone? And, people still do it to this day. And now I try, like recently I had to tell my mom that was disrespectful because I understand it's normal in humanity to be so worried about something, so stressed about something, or just think about things that, you tend to tune out people. I understand that, but it's disrespectful, you know? Respectfully to all of you. You need to learn to give people time, and if you really care about them, you'll put your own problems aside and hear someone out, even if it's just them rambling on about something they want, and since I was a child, I never felt like people were on my side that way, I felt like people would always consistently just put me in the background, whether I was talking about something sad or whatever. And so I learned early on that not only was I going to be isolated by people, but I was also going to be unheard, which meant that I had to learn to fix my own problems myself. So, yeah, there's a lot of reasons why I am the way I am now. But it's sad, Like I said, a lot of things that I wanted as a kid, I really hope that I can be the best mom ever, and the best friend ever to people, because I know what I deserved. I know what I wanted. And I try to do it all the time, and sometimes, unfortunately, sometimes I have to be selfish with my feelings. I've had friends where I couldn't keep being friends with them because they disrespected me, even though I shared my feelings. And it's sad because I have to do it. I have to love myself enough to take people away from my life that don't deserve to be in my life because I've had enough disrespect in my life. And if there's one thing you learn from my channel or me or my video, this video, love yourself and respect yourself enough to get yourself out of situations that you don't deserve. And deep down you don't deserve them, even though you try to cover it up by saying, well, this person does this person, you know when there's something you don't deserve. When someone is constantly making you upset and you cover it up by one good memory. Because I used to do it all the time. Just saying, well, this and this happened, but you know what? One time they got me this, or one time we celebrated this. Don't excuse anyone. Not your parents, not your family, not your siblings, not your boyfriend, not your girlfriend, not your best friend, not your enemy. Don't excuse bad behavior. Accept it. And if they don't want to accept it, if they don't want to grow from that, then they shouldn't be in your life. I'm being completely honest. You don't deserve that. So, I hope that my video serves a really good purpose to your life. And just to share that I wanted a good father. I wanted a sibling that was my best friend. I wanted siblings that were just siblings. I wanted to have a mom that was there for me and that would hug me whenever I wanted and that would kiss me in my cheek or my forehead when I wanted to go to sleep, or that read books to me, or a mother or father that were there for me when I had my heart broken. But I didn't have any of that. I had what was important, right? A roof over my head, food, clothes, water, some toys. But what mattered most, it wasn't there. So if you're an adult watching this, if you're a parent, take it in. Really. I mean it. Yeah, I'm criticizing you. Take it in. Really take in your faults. And I'm not saying judge yourself based solely on your faults. Look at the good things about you. But also, look at your faults. And don't do the same thing every other person does and blame it on your upbringing. Because I can guarantee you, just based on who I am, that just because you were brought up a certain way, it doesn't mean you have to be that way. You have a choice. So be a better person, a better friend, a better partner, a better mother, a better father, a better aunt, uncle. You can do it. And if you're a kid watching this, whatever age you are, even if you're an older kid, right, an adult kid that just doesn't have children, I want you to understand something. Your feelings, whoever you are, they matter. Just don't forget that it's not just about your feelings. You also have to think about other people's feelings. Not always, right? Not consistently to the point that you harm yourself, right? Don't put other people above you. But try to think of others as well. Because while you're telling someone that they look fat just because you feel fat, right? Let's say, right? You don't know if they've been feeling that way and torturing themselves about it this whole time. And you just said it because you wanted to feel better about yourself. And that's honestly the best example I could use, because I know that that's usually the examples that I used to hear around, Or, for example, just because someone else has a parent you know, um, that isn't existent in their life, and you do, and you make them feel bad by using that, you're a bad person, you know, because you're using something to hurt someone that you already know is a sensitive topic for them. So be a better person. Be a better person and stop doing that, because it is up to you. And you can't blame your parents or your siblings or your cousins for how you react. That's all you. So, much love, much light, and I hope all of you learned something.